So building a service for a DM for hire business. Now, this is something that we have to think about pretty deeply in order to in order to make sure that we are delivering things to this unique marketplace in a way that is going to make your players want to come back and join you again. So what I want you to do now is let's imagine that you had a blueprint, right? And this basically creates this blueprint will help you create consistency and quality, create a quality experience for everyone who visits into your world of what you DM for, right? So, obviously in this case, the blueprint is the pre-planning that we're going to start doing to ensure that every player will want to share their enthusiasm. They want to come back for more and tell their friends, that kind of stuff. We will we'll create a few things when we create a service, and starting now, we're gonna think about some baseline pieces that we want to put together. If you were to build a DM for hire service, these are things that I would want you to think about. So this basically, as you're building this out, it will be your first pass at how you'd want to do this. And then eventually, as you get more experienced and get out there and get that flow going out in the field, out, let's say out in the field, you're out there doing paid sessions. This may change as you evolve and learn new things, but for now, I want you to think about, if this is something you wanted to do, start thinking about how you would start it off. This is going to be just your first try at it, right? So what's this all about? How do we want to create a DM for hire offer that our ideal players are going to find irresistible and will want to keep coming back? And how can we do this without compromising your values and what's important to you, right? So here's some struggles that I think that you see a lot around this. Why do folks who are aspiring to be a paid DM, why do they fail at bringing in the right players, appealing to the right players, first of all, and bringing them in, and making sure they match with your values? Not only that, but making sure you don't lose them as a returning player. So some of these struggles I've listed out here. First one, is, hey, what elements should I even include in my offer, right? So, just because you see other people doing a certain thing doesn't mean that you absolutely must do it yourself. And that's a big distinction, because if you're going to go try and do something that you don't enjoy, your players are going to see that, or they're going to sense that, and it's not going to be very fun for everyone. So let's make sure that we figure out what elements are important to you, because when things line up with what you care about and what's important to you, that's when things can really shine, right? Second thing is, there's no consistent experience, right? If you don't have any kind of organization around how you're going to be running your sessions, and if it's an ongoing thing, you're trying to do a session a week, or maybe multiple sessions a week, or maybe you're trying to just do it once a month, whatever it is, you want to make sure you have some kind of process in place that will make it the same every time, not only for your players who come back and want to have a consistent experience, but also for you consistently being able to know what to expect every time you go out there and do a session. It becomes kind of like clockwork for you in a way that takes a lot of pressure off your shoulders, if that makes sense. All right. And then the third thing is lack of confidence on how much you should charge for your services, right? So if you don't know what you have to offer, if you can't clearly articulate to your ideal players what you have to offer and why your offer is so valuable, then you're definitely not going to have confidence on what you want to charge for it. But if you have, and you've built, the structure of a service that you can offer, you can become a lot more confident on saying, hey, I'm able to charge this much because I provide this, and this for you, right? So these are the things that we want to address and overcome these struggles, right? We want to go from unsure about what elements we're going to have. We want to get rid of that inconsistent player experience, and even the experience that you yourself are having as you're doing session after session. And then also let's get rid of that lack of confidence on what to charge. And what we want to turn that into is choosing those elements that's going to make you really shine, right? And then also making your players so excited about what you did that they give you 5-star reviews, right? And also, now we have the ability to feel confident in what we're charging. So how are we going to do this? How do you build a DM for hire service? And here's the steps that I've put together. And I've put together 3 steps here. There's 3 actions. And today I'm just going to cover the first one because there's a lot to cover for each of these. And then we'll cover the other 2 in subsequent weekly live videos here on Facebook. So let's look at this first action. The first action is let's determine what your preferred setup is. So first you want to put together a list of elements that you want to include in your session. So think about every possible thing you can include in your offer, and then things that will, bring both you and your players the most joyful experience, as I said before. So it's important to stress that again. I want to say that one more time. Things that bring you joy, not things that you think other people are going to enjoy. Because if you aren't having fun, like I said before, and you're not enjoying it, your players are going to know, they're going to notice. And that's definitely going to change the energy of the group. And it's going to change how people perceive, how well things are going. So what I want you to do right now, let's take out some paper and a pen and let's start brainstorming together what your DM for hire service might look like. All right. So here's some things I want you to think about, including so what are some things that we can bring into your offer? Let's break it down into a couple categories. All right. So first category is service. So write down service as your first section in your notes, underline that service, right? Now, what do I mean by service? There are things that players will see as super valuable, and then they're going to walk away and realizing, thinking how great an experience it was, right? They'll be like, wow, he or she really blew my mind on this. So the main goal around service is to provide as much value as you can, so that they'll want to return again for another paid session. So here's some examples for what you can provide for service. Can you include like free guidance for new players? Could you do like a quick little, consultation with them to help them get up to speed? So some DMs want to do this DM for hire thing just for new players. And I know a few myself who've gone through some of my programs. Other folks would rather work with players who are super experienced. But if you were to do a new, bringing in new players, are you willing to give them guidance? What if it's a mix of new players and veterans? Do you have a way to help those new players feel welcomed, right? You want to have some kind of guidance possibly. So think about how you would handle that. What about if you offered to run a session 0 before your first session, even if it's a one shot, right? Maybe you can offer possibly for free, just doing a session 0 with everyone, get everyone familiar with each other just for a short hour or whatnot. And that's one way you can do it. Also, if you do this one shot, do you have a consultation, a one-on-one with each player to go through their character? And when they're doing the character creation, maybe helping them build a backstory? Are you doing all that? Is that part of your service? There's a lot of things here. One other one that I'm thinking about here, and that would be, would you offer, so this is another one that I've seen some DMs do. Do you offer an introductory one shot for free, or maybe for a low cost? If you did it for a low cost, that could bring in some folks who are on the fence about whether or not they want to join you, and they want to see what it's all about first. And when you offer that value up front, it makes people that much more willing to join you on a paid session, right? So think about those things around service, right? So now here's the next section in your notes if you're writing this stuff down as you're brainstorming it. Next section is software. So right, software is the next section, underline that. And then think about a few things here. So as a DM for hire specifically, you have a broad reach, right? You with doing things online, if you offer online games, you have a really broad reach worldwide, basically, right? So you want to decide which kind of software tools you like best. And then the reason being is because you're going to convey this in your actual listings, where you're going to list what your offer is. And any players who also like using those tools, they're going to be drawn to you, right? Those that don't like those tools are going to be pushed away. And guess what? That's okay, because you only want to be running games for folks who will enjoy what you're doing, right? And the tools that you're using. And obviously, we said before, you're also going to enjoy it yourself as well, because it's other folks who are, matched with the same values and things that you care about. So that being said, let's talk about what are some things around software. So write down, what is the virtual tabletop software you're going to use? Are you going to use any at all? Are you the type of DM who likes to do theater of the mind? That all depends. So you need to write that down. Do you plan to maybe set up a physical table with physical minis and use a webcam to point at and then move pieces around like they do on Critical Role? This is a really cool idea, and there's a really awesome YouTuber. I did an interview quite recently with an awesome YouTuber named Troy Buckle, and he showed me how he set up this kind of setup. It's pretty amazing. And if that's something you might want to do, I'll put a link in of that interview I did with him. It's a YouTube link. I'll give it to you. I'll put it out on the description of this video so you can see what's possible with using an actual table, actual minis, even if your players are virtual, online, using, online communication tools. So that's another option you can do. What about the voice chat or the video software that you're going to be using? Some folks just use voice only. That was originally what Discord was for. Of course, a lot of us know about Discord. Some folks go far back and still stick with Skype, right? And that's because they just want to use voice. Well, I guess Skype was originally a voice thing, but both Skype and Discord now have video. Some folks don't like to use video, and that's interesting. But I think nowadays everybody's using video. Although, if it's something that you didn't want to use video, you only want to use, voice only, you'd want to list that as well as something that you care about and how you'd want to set up your particular offer, right? Okay, and then the last one is around software. How are you going to manage the character sheets? Are you going to use D&D Beyond? For most folks, that's the easiest way to set up a character sheet and share it with the DM, and then the DM can just go in and see how everybody's characters have been built. There are other tools as well. It just depends on what you care about. So you want to make sure you write that down as well. Okay. Now the next section on determining your preferred setup. This is another area in your notes. So write down resources and underline that. Here's the next section that you want to think about for resources. So as a benefit of players who are paying to join you, what will they get in the way of resources? So think about, are there some things that you can give them where they can't get them anywhere else unless they spend their own extra money or time to get it? So for example, would you supply them with access to a compendium of published source books for them to utilize? I know that I think even in D&D Beyond that we just talked about, they offer the ability for a DM to have all the source books, which I think costs a couple $100 to have all the source books. But you can share them with any players who you bring into a campaign, and they can all access every source book without having to own it themselves. So that's a really great benefit for a lot of folks when they don't have all the source books. Maybe they just have the handbook, and they want, maybe they want to look at some of the other supplements like Xanathar's Guide to Everything or Tasha's Cauldron, right? Those are the ones that have some extra character options. So maybe they want to have access to those because they don't have it at home. So things like that, right? What about if you had like a curated library of character artwork and tokens that they could choose from, instead of them having to go out and like find stuff? Maybe you'll have a really vast selection of things that they can pick and choose from without them having to spend extra time trying to go find it themselves, right? So maybe that's another cool thing that you could offer. And then another thing that a lot of DMs like is maps. Not everybody does. Again, the folks who do theater of the mind don't really care about maps. But if you did care about maps, what kind of map making software are you going to use and display for your paying players? Some map making software is very fancy, and it makes it look very immersive. Others is just, other map software, like, let me give an example, is like Owlbear Rodeo, for example, just very minimal. And some players might not care about that. They only care about the story, and they don't care about how detailed the map looks. They only care about, measuring distance and stuff like that. So it just depends on what you care about, because when you convey what you care about, then the players who care about that as well will be attracted to you when you put out these listings. So that's the whole point of determining what your preferred setup is, because that will then determine what your target audience is going to be, your target players who you're going to go try to find and bring into your world. So that was all the first step here in building your service. We'll go over working procedures and building the offer in later live sessions. So one other thing to note here is that this build your service step is just one step in an entire 9-step roadmap that we have. So I'm going to just show you what that looks like. There's it's a clear 9-step roadmap here for creating a DM for hire business in 90 days. So you'll see here, this is just this is step 6 out of 9 steps. And just wanted to mention that that is our premier 90-day program that that I've worked with you know, other DMs who have been able to go on and create a DM for hire service in about 90 days. So finally, one other thing before I sign off, I wanted to announce that we have another 5-day challenge called Get Paid to Run D&D, and that's coming up in the next month or so. So if you're interested in finding out more about this challenge, click the link in the description. Let me show you what that looks like. Bring it up on my screen here. Where is it? Hold on a second. I had it a moment ago. Where did it go? Well, that's interesting. Let me just bring it up over here for you. So I'm going to drop this link in the description. So let's see, see if I can find it. Hold on. Dungeon Mavericks 3-step DM pack. There we go. So this is the link I'm going to supply. Okay. And in here, it's going to take you to a page where you can grab our free, it's our free download. It's a 3-step DM adventure pack. You just go ahead and click the download if you want to grab that, if you haven't already gotten it. Some of you might already have it. And then if you scroll down to this yellow section here, just click in this section here to sign up to get notified when the challenge is open for registration. So that'll be coming up very soon, within the next month or so. So if you're interested in joining us for the 5-day challenge and building a DM for hire service, you know, having your first listing up in 5 days, join us for that. That would be really awesome to see you in there.